Shawn, we're on a dirt road. Where are we headed?
We are on our way to the old town of St. Thomas.
What can you tell us about it?
It's an old ghost town. It was a thriving community prior to the filling of Lake Mead. And then when Lake Mead was filled, St. Thomas was enveloped by the water as the lake filled. As a result of the drought that we've been having for the last 30 years, the lake level has dropped significantly, and St. Thomas has reappeared.
And the road to St. Thomas is just at the north entrance of the Lake Mead National Recreation Area. And after you do the turn off, you have a 3.5 mile dirt road to the trailhead parking area, and then you have a little walk down to the settlement area.
As the sign says, it's about a 2.5 mile round trip. However, you're most likely going to spend a lot more time walking around the structures when you get down to St. Thomas, and you're likely to be there quite a bit longer than you might imagine. So make sure you take a good supply of water and some snacks with you. And the trail on the way down has quite a few cobbles and large rocks on it, pretty easy to slip or turn an ankle. So good quality hiking boots are not a bad idea as well.
Well, we left the trailhead and come down a little ways, heading towards St. Thomas. It's a 2.5 mile loop trail. Probably if you walk around the buildings a bit, you might add another half mile. So far the trail is easy, gravel and sand, and downhill in this direction. So we'll see later how it feels when we're coming back uphill and it's a bit warmer.
So the National Park System has put in some new signage telling a little bit more of the story of the area, including and mostly focused on the farmers in the St. Thomas area. So the main group that grew this area were a series of Mormons that came down from Salt Lake City. And that was a pretty common in Utah, that they would essentially spread out from Salt Lake City along many of the major transportation pathways. Here in St. Thomas, this became quite a strong agricultural area. They grew cotton for the lint, the material that actually makes the jeans, and it was also an area where they grew a lot of vegetables and other products, other agricultural products, to support the transportation of people from Salt Lake City towards Los Angeles, or even for that matter down to Las Vegas. After they developed the vegetables and that, and as the community developed, they started growing fruit trees, grapes, apples, that sort of thing as well.
The only thing left in St. Thomas are these concrete structures and foundations from the buildings that were here while the town was alive.
The route through St. Thomas was called the Arrowhead Trail, and it was a major route from Los Angeles to Salt Lake City. It was also a major connector between the Colorado River and Salt Lake City, and it was a freight road. The citizens of St. Thomas were tasked with maintaining this part of the road that connected from from Los Angeles to Salt Lake City. And because it was at lower elevations, it was open all year round. It didn't have problems with winter snows. The town of St. Thomas was actually quite an oasis because they could run irrigation lines up from the Virgin River, and they had quite tall cottonwood trees and a lot of fruit trees, so it would have been a welcome sight for travelers traveling through the southern part of Nevada. Unfortunately, due to the dam, the town was vacated in the late 1930s. Most of the residents had lived out here till 1932, but there were a few diehards that didn't leave until 1938. The government paid for the land out here. Originally, one of the owners of the land and surveyors from Washington, D.C. determined the value to be about $966,000, and later that was knocked down to $800,000 and $3,300,000 when the government finally paid up for the land. The better homes and the buildings that supported school and commerce would have cement footings, foundations, and then some of them would have just a wood structure above. So when it came time to vacate St. Thomas, some of the people actually had their homes moved, and so all that remained were the cement foundations. Some of the remaining stumps that you see along this route would have been for shade trees. As I mentioned in an earlier discussion, they had quite a lot of trees here, and they irrigated it with water from the river. These cisterns would hold multiple months of water for the residents, and the residents could come down and dip a bucket and get enough water for each day. Once a year, the youngest residents would be lowered into the cisterns, and they would clean the walls.
Corinne and I are in the old town, historic town of St. Thomas today, and we're doing a little bit of iPhone photography as part of our travel photography. And we often will do this, especially when we're in a place where the light is not particularly great, like in Nevada during any time after sunrise or sunset. So it's very harsh out here, and we're working with these really old, interesting structures. So when we're taking photographs out here, we're trying to do two things. One, we're trying to document the structure. We want to actually have a memory of what we saw. So we're taking shots that would be more complete of the structure. And if there's any information, we'll often take a picture of the sign and the structure, which will help us remember what the structure was and why it was important. Then if we want to get a little bit more artistic, then we try to come in and take sort of smaller, more intimate shots of the structure. And what we're really trying to do is to give a feeling of what the structure is without necessarily trying to take the whole structure. So what becomes really important are things like angles, shadows, and I'll give you some examples of what we're talking about here. It's also important not to try to take everything all the time. So you only need to take little bits of information. So I want to walk over to the side here, if I can get my cameraman to follow me. So it's often a lot of fun to include little bits of rusted out, in this case rusted out metal. I don't really know what they are other than their wheels, and I try to include those in the overall structure. It may be important historically, but also it's just an interesting way to include the bric-a-brac of a ghost town as part of the overall photographic essay.
And don't forget about black and white. It's often a great way to add more interest and drama to the photograph.
The more prominent structures here in town is this building that's got a large wall, corner wall, and support. This was the Hanning store, and it was built along the Arrowhead Trail. and it mostly serviced the travelers passing through town on their way north or south. And they sold homemade ice cream, homemade root beer, and a few other groceries. They weren't the main grocery store for the area, but it's kind of like our roadside stops where we get snacks and beverages and refreshments along our travels. At the east end of town, there's this structure with nicely formed stairs going up. This is the foundation of the elementary school, which operated until 1932. It had 4 large rooms and some area above for plays and musicals, and it had an auditorium. The children, once they reached high school age, would have to take a vehicle up to Overton, and it was a long and bumpy road. One of the girls nicknamed the ride to Overton as the churn. Because this is an archaeological site, they ask that you not step on any of the buildings, go up the stairs, or remove any of the artifacts that are here. This is a foundation of one of the homes that was near the hotel and general store. And looking on the inside, it appears that some of the cattle seem to like to use this area to get out of the wind and weather. Just beyond the foundation of this house, we have a bit of an audience checking us out. Pretty well hidden in those old dead and dried out vegetation is a fairly sizable group of burros. The burros were brought in by the miners, and when the miners left, they were just released to the wild, and they've been able to survive all these years.
We had a lovely day touring the site, but it was time to leave. It was getting really hot, and we wanted to get out of the sun and the heat. And we were also looking forward to that really cold drink back at the van.
Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed coming along for this video.
We sure enjoyed having you along with us.
If you like this video, I hope you'll hit the thumbs up button.
And if you want to see more videos, please subscribe.
And if you want to know when our videos are posted, please click on that notification bell down below.
And if you have any questions, ideas, comments, thoughts, please put them down in the space below. And bye for now.
Bye for now.